Good morning children and welcome back to the online classes. As you can see, we are continuing with exercise 3.1. We are going to sum number 11. Our target for today is sum number 11, 12 and 13. So we will be done with this exercise once we finish these three sums. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the sums, the next sum, that is sum number 11, has a brief explanation to be done before I start on the sum. What is this brief explanation? In those sums you can see that they have placed a negative number between two lines or a positive number between two lines. When I have two vertical lines at either side, either of a negative number or a positive number, what they need to say is tell us the absolute value. This is something that is being introduced for the first time to you where integers is concerned. It's called absolute value. What does this absolute value mean? This absolute value means that when I have a negative integer or a positive integer placed between two vertical lines, the sum means to tell me to find the absolute value of minus 3 and the absolute value of plus 2. What is absolute value? The absolute value of an integer, whether be it negative or positive, is the number of places that it is away from the 0. So, whether negative or positive, irrespective of a number being negative or positive, the absolute value of a particular number between two vertical lines is the number itself. Because you see the number line, then minus 3 is 3 places away from the 0 towards the left. And plus 2 is 2 places away from the 0 to the right. Now whether left or right, we are still writing the number of places that an integer is away from the 0. So when you have a negative integer or a positive integer placed between two vertical lines, they are asking you actually to find out their absolute value. What does absolute value mean? Absolute value means how many places is minus 3 away from 0? The answer is 3. How many places is plus 2 from 0? The answer is 2. So the absolute value of minus 3 is 3 and the absolute value of plus 2 is 2. Similarly, if I tell you to find the absolute value of plus 7, it will be 7. And similarly, the absolute value of minus 7 will also be 7. Because when an integer places itself between two vertical lines, the question is, what is the sum asking us to do? The sum is asking you to find the absolute value. And in mathematics, absolute value means how many places is that particular integer away from the 0. So the absolute value of minus 3 is 3 because it is 3 places away from the 0. Similarly, the absolute value of plus 2 is 2 because it is 2 places away from the 0. Now we will start on the sums. So I will remove this. Let's look at the sum. Sum number 11. Evaluate A minus 13. A, absolute value of minus 13. They are asking us to find out what is the absolute value of minus 13. These are not brackets. These are vertical lines that tell you whatever is inside it, you have to write the absolute value of it. Now there is only one single number between these two lines, and that is minus 13. What is the absolute value of minus 13? The absolute value of minus 13 is 13 because it is 13 places away from the 0. Let's go to sum B. B says plus 27. Absolute value of plus 27. Very simple. The absolute value of plus 27 is 27 itself because it is 27 places away from the 0. Remember children, when an integer, whether negative or positive, places themselves between two vertical lines, that means I have to find something in mathematics that we know as absolute value. And what is absolute value? The number of places that that particular digit is away from 0. So the absolute value of plus 13 is also 13 and the absolute value of minus 13 is also 13 because it is 13 places away from the 0. Let's look at sum C. Sum C says the absolute value of 13 minus 15. Absolute value of 13 minus 15. So, now in this case, I have to go one step further. I cannot find out the absolute value of 13 minus 15 till I don't solve it first. I have to know what's the answer of 13 minus 15. Now, as we do sums, you will understand how this works out. As I had done in my previous sums and I had explained to you, there will come a time that every time the operation cannot be done on a number line. In that case, I have to ask myself, remember when I told you, at the end of any solution where you are doing with integers, you will be left with two positives or two negatives, or one positive, one negative, one negative, one positive. If there are two positives, add them and put the positive sign. If there are two negatives, add and put the negative sign. But what happens when one is positive and one is negative? Then I see which one is greater amongst them. In this case, 15 is greater than 13. So from 15, I will take away 13. The answer is 2. And I'll put the sign of the greater number, minus. Now I have solved it, so the lines remain still there. Now what is the absolute value of minus 2? The absolute value of minus 2 is 2 because it is 2 places away from the 0. D. Absolute value of minus 11 minus 7. Minus 11 minus 7. Now again, first I have to solve this. I told you there are going to be only 4 cases. Either both the numbers will be positive or both the numbers will be negative. Or one will be positive, one will be negative, one will be negative and one will be positive. If both positive, add and put the positive sign. If both negative, add and put the negative sign. One positive, one negative, then from the greater, take away the smaller, put the sign of the greater number. As we develop in the lesson, you will understand it better. Now both are minuses. So what does the rule say when both are minuses? You add both of them and put the minus sign. 11 and 7 gives me 18. I put the same sign because I am adding. The sign changes only when I am subtracting. The answer takes the sign of the greater number. But when I am adding, the sign does not change. Plus plus, the answer should be plus. Minus minus, the answer should be minus. So minus 11 minus 7, I have added, I have got 18 minus 18. What is the absolute value of minus 18? 18, because it is 18 places away from the 0. So this is how we evaluate these sums. Remember, the instruction has to be written by you, and then what is written on the board has to be copied. And the instruction is very simple. It only says evaluate. So you write sum number 11, evaluate, and write all of this. And this is how this sum is to be solved.